Hello, I'm Jason Gordon, owner and founder of Divorce Loan Pro LLC. And on behalf of my colleagues at the Divorce Lending Association, I am pleased and honored to have my guest for today, Leyla Balakhane, who is way too shy to discuss all of her credentials. I'll just kind of introduce your credentials. Leyla is a family law mediator based in Los Angeles County. She also wears a second hat, which she is an educator for a 40-hour mediation training called Mediation Mastery. And Leyla, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jason.
You're very welcome. So I'd just love to know kind of your inspiration. What inspired you to become a divorce mediator and also an educator for the 40-hour mediation training?
Well, it's going to be a very long story.
I've got
I
time.
oh, glad to hear. So I grew up in during the Iran and Iran war, and there were literally bombs being dropped just blocks away from our home. And on top of that, my parents' religious belief weren't accepted, which really made life a lot harder in those days. And on top of that, being a woman in Iran came with very limited freedom. I mean, women were literally required to cover up in public, even as a very young girl. I always looked older than my age, especially today, Jason.
You
But
look you look very youthful, my friend.
oh, but I used to, just every woman that we had to cover ourselves. And sadly, even today, some of the things that are happening in Iran, a woman cannot travel without her husband's permission. A woman in Iran doesn't have the same right, especially when it comes to divorce, Jason. And then when it comes to custody, when a woman files, the father gets the custody. And a, a woman's testimony is worth half of a man. And there are a lot of jobs in the leadership roles that are close to women. And then if, as a woman, you wanted to live alone, forget it. You would definitely face this constant judgment and unfair treatment by the government. And when I talk about Iran, I'm talking specifically about the government, not the people. So from the very beginning, I knew what it felt like to live in fear and never really knowing what's going to happen next. And my mom, she really worked tirelessly to bring six kids. I mean, six children is not easy, Jason. She wanted us to live in a place where our identity, our gender, the religion, our freedom wasn't going to be punished. So she took 5 years to get us out legally. There are ways that there are Persians that can come as refugees, but my mom wanted us to have that option if we wanted to go back to Iran. So she really worked hard with 5 years of paperwork, waiting. I mean, I'm such a strong lady that to make that happen. Then, Jason, we had to go through two countries, and we lived in each one before we finally got to US. But we were living in Switzerland for almost a year, and just in the beginning of our time in Switzerland, I just remember just few people suddenly just came into our room. They packed our bags and they took us straight to airport. At first, we obviously didn't know where we were going until we saw we're at the airport. And it was really the scariest moment because we were all worried what was going to happen if we were sent back. And my mom, somehow, with her broken English, that she told the pilot, if you send us back, they're going to hurt us. I mean, imagine we're waiting to take off. And by some miracle, I still don't know how this happened. They let us off the plane.
Wow.
And imagine my mom, three small kids, and we got so close to being deported. I know exactly when I hear today the word deportation, it's just, I know what that fear feels like because I've gone through it. And then coming to US wasn't easy either. There was a culture shock. There was a language barrier. I already lived through, 3 other countries that I had to learn these different languages and go to school there. And then when I got here, I just felt invisible just because of the culture being so different. And I am the fifth of 6 kids, Jason. And I think I just naturally ended up mediating within my siblings, and probably where that's, um, you know, plant a seed for me to be here today as a mediator. But there's so many reasons why I was drawn to mediation. Part of it is going back and growing up and seeing how the laws in Iran treated women, how powerless so many people felt in the legal system in Iran. But even here, Jason, the laws aren't uniform. Some for divorce, some states go by community property rules, which means everything gets split 50-50. And then we have some states or equitable distribution. And it's just definition is to be fair, but it doesn't mean always 50-50. So for me, seeing those differences, it made me realize how much people's lives are shaped by the system that is really out of their control. Being Middle Eastern, for me, negotiation was built into my blood. It was also the way I had to survive. And I had to go through so much, and survival meant that I had to learn to speak up, to learn to negotiate, and push for equity, push for dignity, and just things that was never offered to me in Iran. And this is why mediation feels really like home to me. And as I grew in my work as a mediator, I also wanted to support the future mediators. And that's what inspired me with my very good friend. And she's also a past president of SCMA. We created a 40-hour mediation training, mastery mediation, with Jennifer Toronto. And I'm really proud of what we have created. And it's just not about meeting certification requirements. It's about really wanting to prepare mediators for real world challenges of mediation. And we also bring great leaders who have decades of experience. So participants really learn directly from those in the field that know it the best. And I feel like for me personally, training the new mediators is about multiplying that impact. And the more skilled mediators they are, the more families and community can benefit from them.
I really appreciate you sharing that your story. And I mean, the more you spoke, the more I was so present to how much we take for granted being born and raised out here, and the creature comforts that we're used to are not replicated across the world. And I have heard quite a bit about, the gender imbalance as far as treatment in Iran, and a lot of the government, sort of attitudes and influences. I won't go too deep into that, but a lot of what you've said, I've heard in many different contexts, and that's very validating. You validated a lot of what I believed I knew. Obviously, I only scratched the surface with my knowledge compared to you being born and raised in that, and it must have been pretty emotional to sort of escape from that, so to speak, and then to arrive somewhere where you didn't have the roots, and you had an uphill sort of learning and adapting, um, a series of experiences, to say the least. And I could really see where you would want to not only take those skills and your family dynamics and your attitude into the workplace when you're working with families, but also to take that a step further as a trainer and help other folks become trained as mediators, and they're helping people who you'll never see. So it's kind of a legacy that you're creating for yourself, and it's a perpetuating influence that's going to benefit a lot of folks who you'll never, you know, personally see. So I think that's fantastic. So kudos to you.
Thank you. You know, you gotta make an amazing mediator yourself. I mean, just the way you summarize and empathize with me. You're naturally, I think, born to be a mediator, but thank you for
Well,
the
I appreciate that. One thing I haven't told you, I'll tell you on camera right here. I'm actually about 95% completed with a credential through the Divorce Lending Association called a real estate mediation specialist. It's an REMS, and you know, one day when we're off camera, we'll talk about BATNA and all these other different types of acronyms and
Yes,
approaches. But no, it's funny you
love
mentioned that
that.
because I really the mediation process, the professional mediators, they resonate with me. It's something that I fully believe in, and that takes nothing away from the litigators out there. That's not a, you know, a zero sum game here. But I
Right.
do resonate very well with mediation in
I see
general.
it.
I do like diplomacy. I do like the advocacy of both parties and the outcomes for both to ideally walk away whole and complete, or at least very close to that. Now, for the
That.
benefit of those who are not you and I, who don't really know what all these terminology, what this terminology really means, how exactly would you describe divorce mediation and how it works?
You know, at its core, mediation is just really about creating space for people to have real conversation. And my role as a mediator is to guide the process as someone that is impartial outside of the conflict. So, what do I mean by impartial, Jason? It means that I treat everyone equally through the process. And I would like just to have each person have the opportunity to speak, to be heard, and to be respected. So that's what impartial, a lot of mediators use neutral. I like impartial more. Um, Means that you're really championing for both sides to get the best settlement they can. Now, mediation is voluntary. That means you have the choice to be in mediation and you really have the option yourself to make an agreement that works for all of you. I do divorce, so it's mostly with spouses. And what I really enjoy when people are talking and when they're listening and then when they start to really understand each other as a mediator, when I set that setting for them, I appreciate it. But also I use a lot of different tools, right? You know, I've been doing mediation for 14 years. So tools like open communication, helping them process their emotion. Believe it or not, a lot of people have no idea how to process their emotion. And creative solving, problem solving. And then just really sometimes having that simple heart-to-heart conversation that can be very difficult. And again, it's walking the clients through to get them there. For me, it's never about having them settle. I just want to create a place that is safe and they can move from conflict towards something that is balanced and lasting, not just getting to a settlement. It's easy for me to get couples to settle, but I want it to be something that is long lasting. Also, mediation is quicker than going to court, is more affordable. It's private. Um, most more Many people they can reach an agreement in few days or a few weeks rather than having to wait years for the court to finalize their divorce. Not because the courts they don't want to. It's really they're just bombarded with so many cases. But most importantly, Jason, it puts the control back onto their hands, right? They create the agreement that works best for their family.
Makes complete sense. And you and I both know there's just so much riding on this process and so many emotions that have led up to them making the choice to get divorced. And um, I don't want to overgeneralize here, but I feel like litigation oftentimes is just get us to the finish line of getting that divorce decree, and we're going to fight the entire way in some of the more extreme cases. And when we get there, we get there. And if there's ongoing
Mhm.
agreements like support, well, maybe it's going to happen, maybe it's not going to happen. And it's almost as if there's less of a willingness in many cases. Again, I don't want to generalize too much, but in many cases, there's less of a willingness to have some kind of civil relationship post decree. Where mediation, I feel like it's yes, we're going to get you to the divorce decree stage, but we're also going to pave a foundation where you can share custody with the children and be civil. You can, you know, the other things that life brings on. Maybe one or both of you were to find a new love interest. There may will be potentially a bit more of a foundation for cohesiveness. You know, and there's not a magic pill that's going to work with every single couple, as we know. But I feel like mediation just it creates a foundation to
Yeah,
move forward.
100%. You know, Jason, what many people don't realize, imagine this timeline of, if you can see my pen here,
I do.
imagine this timeline and there is point zero, and then imagine 2 years ahead of this. And most people in the divorce process that end up in litigation because one person is point zero emotionally and the other person is 2 years ahead because they had all these 2 years to process their emotion. So what happened is the person who's 2 years ahead is pushing this person at point zero to catch up, and they're not ready. So by them pushing the other person, that's what happens that people end up in litigation. So what I try to do in mediation, tell the person who's 2 years ahead to slow down, and then I help the person who's at point zero to emotionally process what they're going through so they can meet somewhere in that middle line.
What a nice visual on that too. That makes complete sense. Yeah, I mean, there's so much going on, and I
There's a
feel as a mediator, you're walking this diplomatic tightrope at all times and managing so many variables, which makes me really kind of curious. How do you balance confidentiality with the ethical obligation to remain impartial?
It's a great question. Mediation process. A lot of people don't know this, but mediation process is both confidential and it's both private. So what do I mean by confidentiality? The concept of confidentiality in mediation means that whatever they share in during the process of mediation, whatever material they share in the process of mediation, that they may not say or they may not feel comfortable to disclose in a more hard-nosed environment. What it really means that if either person says, I don't want to follow through with mediation, I want to go to court, they have to understand my notes, the documents they presented through the process cannot be admitted to court. And the whole idea is to make them feel safe and comfortable. They can say anything without having to worry about this is going to be used against me. And one of the most important things that I do, and not everybody agrees with this, sometimes mediators meet with the parties separately, and this is called caucus.
Yes.
Some 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 mediators never do this. Some do it often. Personally, I have a whole approach, but I meet with the clients individually when I'm helping them prepare their final settlement proposal. And when I meet with them separately, I explain to them that facts aren't confidential, but feelings are, thoughts are, fears are. I can keep that private. So, for example, if somebody comes and tells me, Layla, I have a house in Northern California. Can you please not share that? Or, I'm going to offer low, but I'm willing to pay more. And they want me to keep that to myself, and I say I can't. I have to share it with the other person. So I always caution them, don't tell me something privately if you don't want me to share it with the other person. So I set that boundary very clear. So there's no keeping secret in mediation about facts.
That's a really good distinction because so many folks associate divorce with what they see in the movies and this, this courtroom drama. And what a lot of people do forget is any of us can walk into a family court and sit down and witness many different court hearings, not all of them, but it is kind of, it's not confidential. I mean, a lot of information can be just said in open court in front of anybody that's there. And um, for the benefit of those that kind of view divorce as these two people on either sides of the courtroom banging their fist on the table here, what makes, in your opinion, the mediation process different from what people might experience in court?
So the way I explain mediation is that I tell my clients, you're going to first put all the elements you want to negotiate on the table. By elements, I mean things like, there's cash flow that's available for support, right? They have retirement accounts or big bank accounts, or whatever, everything that actually needs to be worked out. And I tell them the more items they include, the more room they have to negotiate. So for example, Jason, take for the house. And we both know this, there's a lot to talk about, how to negotiate the house. But the marbles that we add to the family residence could be about, like who's going to claim deductions for that year. If they're going to file separate, whether they can negotiate the cost of sales. If one person wants to keep the family residence, refinancing issues. What if a person is not eligible to refi? So all those become part of marbles for them to negotiate. That's what you get in mediation. And then I guide my clients through understanding the assets and debts in three different lenses. So the first lens is, what is their understanding of the law, family law? What is their understanding of the real world consideration? So I give an example of the family residence, right? There's real world issues like taxes. So somebody who wanted to refi, they're not eligible. And that has nothing to do with the family law, right? That has to do with real world consideration. And the third lens is that I tell my clients, what is a client generated outcome? What will you think? What are you willing to do to create a solution? And that's where I guide them through making this comprehensive settlement proposal. If I give you X, Y, and Z, would you be willing to give me 1, 2, and 3? And I truly believe the safest way to negotiate is to settle all the issues together. And I tell them, every proposal you make has two parts, a number and a message, right? The other person is going to see that number, but they're going to feel the message. And I just asked them the question, what message does your proposal send? Does it, because remember I said, what are you willing to give up to receive what you need? So I asked them, does it show what one person is getting and what the other is getting in return? I mean, that's really the core of negotiation. I never include the dollar amount of asset and debts for privacy into their final settlement agreement that gets to court. The court does, unfortunately, they have to include the dollar value of their asset and debt. So that becomes public record. I don't include that for privacy measures. I never want to put the courts down because I know judges work really hard, really, really hard. And I just think they're bombarded with too many cases to fully give everything they have. But at the end of the mediation, it's about people staying in control and coming up with solution that really fits their lives, not having a third party that doesn't know them and make that decision for them.
You're balancing quite a bit because you're balancing the personalities, desires, goals, and sometimes emotions of the divorcing parties involved. But then there's external um, influences out there that you don't control. You don't control tax law, and you may not be proficient in
Exactly.
every single tax code. Um, I joke with a lot of my family law attorney friends, I say, yeah, where'd you go to law school? Oh, I went here. Oh, great school. At what point in law school did they teach you Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac underwriting guidelines? No, oh, they didn't. I said, okay, so why are you telling clients or assuring clients that they can qualify? And I'm not trying to antagonize you, but stay in your lane, right? And
Exactly.
and I feel like your role is comparable to a general contractor who comes to the house and says, okay, well, look, you need a new roof. I'm not going to come on the roof and put it together, but I know someone that will. And you need this, you need that. And
Right.
you sort of bring in, in this case, the subcontractors, for lack of a better
Mhm.
metaphor there. So with that in mind, how do you personally collaborate with loan officers, financial advisors, other attorneys?
First I want to say I love that whole idea about the general contractor because that's what I use all the time. And you're absolutely right. I really believe surrounding myself with experts who really truly care about the client's well-being. And that was the most important thing for me. And then, sometimes you have clients, somebody's a CEO, and then you have someone who was a whole, not working and raising the kids, and they don't have any understanding of the finances. So how do I make them to be in equal knowledge to have that understanding of being an equal understanding in that information? So I collaborate with many experts around myself. And one of the people who I have the privilege of working so closely with is, of course, you, Jason. And, I've seen firsthand the time, the care you give the clients I refer. This is the time that I can genuinely say thank you for what you do. And
Very welcome.
every single one of them spoke very highly of you. And I personally myself, I'm impressed how much time and effort you put into helping them. Um, and so for me, it's not about trying to do everything myself. I can't do everything myself. I want to create that safe space where, clients can connect with professionals like yourself who genuinely care and guide them through making these important transition and decisions they need to make in their lives. So you're absolutely one of those people, Jason.
Appreciate you saying that. I really do. Well, I could tell you, I mean,
It's the
we had
truth.
this we had this perfect society. We wouldn't need divorce professionals. We wouldn't need law enforcement. We wouldn't need we wouldn't need doctors if everything was perfect. But obviously, the world is such where folks have their adversity, and to be able to have professionals who actually care about helping their customers, their clients, or patients or their doctors. Um, it's everything. And you don't realize just how important it is until you are in that situation. And I could tell you, I speak with divorcing folks pretty much on a daily basis, pretty much multiple in most days, multiple divorcing parties in most days. And um, they're going through it. It's
Yeah,
financial, it's legal, it's
real.
highly emotional, and you know, doesn't matter the gender who I'm speaking with. They're both showing just the immense impact that it's having on them in that moment. And so you know, to reciprocate the compliment, I mean, folks like you, and I've definitely collaborated with you on multiple occasions. I mean, thank you for just being there. The world needs folks like that who care about people. And again,
Yeah.
not to take focus away from who you're helping as far as the divorcing parties directly, but also helping other professionals get trained to help divorcing folks. I mean, it's a perpetuating influence. And as I mentioned before, I mean, you won't see the eyes of the people who you're helping indirectly, but it's going to continue to grow abundantly, and it's fantastic. And I want to make sure, before we end this interview and this video, I want to make sure we're giving proper opportunity for those who do want to reach out to you. So for those who want to take the next step, where can they learn more about both your mediation training as well as your individual consultations?
If I may, I can go ahead and share the screen
Of course.
here so they can see that information. Okay, so this is my office phone number, balakhanemediation.com, where they can schedule a 15 minutes complimentary consultation. And Mediation Mastery is 40-hour mediation training.com. They can have more information. We are actually having our training starting September 2nd. And the next one is going to be around February 2026. So if you are interested, please feel free to contact me either to the website, or you can go ahead and reach me at the 424 number. And I'm happy to talk to you.
Perfect. And as this video is going to, air on social media, and people may see this tomorrow, they may see this a year from now, or who knows when. I mean, that's the beauty of social media nowadays. Folks can always go to that URL, 40hourmediationtraining.com, to see when the next available meeting is, in case they missed the one that you just announced. It's not a one-time only opportunity. They can visit that site on an ongoing basis to find out upcoming trainings. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. So I'm
Perfect.
going to go ahead and stop sharing.
Okay. Well,
Uh,
I got to tell you, I learned more about you than I thought, and I mean, I really appreciate you sharing, especially your history in Iran. I mean, that's most folks out here don't have those experiences. They don't have that relatedness. So thank you for that.
Thank you
Is there
for
anything
giving me the
else that you?
space.
I beg your pardon?
Thank you for providing me the space to do it, inviting me for this interview. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Any parting words for those watching before we end this interview?
Just know that if really you have any concern or any questions and just not understanding or about divorce process, or if you have any fears about what it even means, I'm happy to walk you through it and answer any questions you have.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I can confidently say that those who choose to seek you out are going to get caring and competent treatment. And, thank you for your ongoing service and helping those who need that help. And on a personal note, thank you for always, collaborating with me in these situations too. I take none of this for granted. And I know we share a lot of the same values, and overall just a desire to help others, especially those who are going through a pretty tough spot. So thank you for that. And we will be in touch, Leyla.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're
Thank you,
very
Jason.
welcome.